With Daredevil out now, let's take a look at 15 things you probably didn't know about Marvel's TV series about a blind lawyer who's also a masked vigilante. When Chief Creative Officer of Marvel Entertainment, Joe Quesada, saw Charlie Cox on Boardwalk Empire, he knew he'd found the perfect actor to play Matt Murdock, and he rang Marvel's head of TV, Jeff Loeb, to tell him just that. At that point, the on-screen rights to Daredevil was still owned by Fox. It was roughly 2 years later that those rights reverted to Marvel Studios in late 2012. When Charlie Cox first auditioned for Daredevil in New York, the mock scenes he read weren't from the actual script, and his character's name in those scenes was Alex Everett, not Matt Murdock. The name Alex Everett was perhaps a nod to Daredevil co-creator Bill Everett, and also to one of the superhero's comic book artists, Alex Maleev. Of course, Cox wasn't the only actor up for the role. In fact, later, when he had a Skype meeting with the show's exec producer, Jeff Loeb, he could actually see photos on the wall behind Loeb of other actors who were up for consideration. However, according to Cox, he couldn't quite make out their faces. The comic book version of Wilson Fisk, A.K.A. Kingpin, is bald, 6 foot 7 inches tall and weighs 450 pounds. So Vincent D'Onofrio, who's 6 foot 3 inches tall, shaved his head and gained 30 pounds to play him, taking his total weight to about 280 pounds. Of course, this isn't the first time D'Onofrio's gained considerable weight or shaved his head for a role. To play Private Leonard Lawrence in Stanley Kubrick's war film Full Metal Jacket, D'Onofrio shaved his head and gained nearly 70 pounds. In addition to the show's scripts, D'Onofrio found inspiration for his portrayal of Fisk in the work of Daredevil comic book artists and writers David Mack, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Frank Miller. At the end of Charlie Cox's first day on the Daredevil set, Joe Quesada gave the actor some of his artwork as a welcoming present. The work was page 1, issue 1 of the miniseries Daredevil Father, which was both written and illustrated by Quesada, and it was actually one of the few pages that Quesada had kept from the series. Elden Henson, who plays Matt Murdock's best friend, Foggy Nelson, auditioned for Daredevil via Skype while he was in Berlin filming the Hunger Games Mockingjay. According to Henson, the audition was a bit of a nightmare as he couldn't get Skype to work on his laptop, and when he tried to Skype on his phone, there were problems with the sound and people kept calling him. Straight after finishing Mockingjay in Germany, Henson travelled back to LA, where his son was born the next day, and he arrived in New York less than 2 weeks later to start work on Daredevil. Deborah Ann Woll had less than 48 hours between wrapping the last episode of vampire drama True Blood and her first day filming Daredevil. Woll, who plays client-turned-secretary Karen Page in the Marvel series, says the short turnaround helped take her mind off the sadness of True Blood ending. Playing Karen Page in Daredevil had a special personal connection for Deborah Ann Woll, as her real-life boyfriend E.J. Scott suffers from choroideremia, a rare inherited degenerative disease that leads to blindness. Writer Frank Miller and artist John Romita Jr.'s 1993 Daredevil comic book miniseries The Man Without Fear was a big influence on Marvel's Daredevil show. An example of that can be seen in the black ninja costume Daredevil wears in the series. Costume designer Stephanie Maslansky wanted the costume to be as grounded and as authentic as possible, and she said it needed to be made of things that anyone could buy on the street, on the internet, or in an Army and Navy store. We wanted something that looked militaristic and functional, but also dramatic and badass. Before he joined the show, Charlie Cox wasn't familiar with the Daredevil comics. In fact, the only comics he read when he was growing up in the UK were the Beano and the Dandy. But once cast, he spent a lot of time reading the Daredevil comics, and because of the tone of Marvel's TV series, he found the work of writer Brian Michael Bendis and artist Alex Maleev particularly useful. Cox has said that if he could choose any supervillain to appear in future seasons of the show, he'd love to see Stiltman and Jester, and he'd also like to see his character fight crime alongside Black Widow. Although Daredevil is set in modern-day Hell's Kitchen, the show's creative team wanted their version of the New York neighborhood to be more like the grittier place seen in the comic books and less like the gentrified location it is now in reality. So, executive producer Drew Goddard came up with the idea that in Daredevil, New York City is still dealing with the aftermath of the Battle of New York that took place in the first Avengers movie. And that's why in the show, Hell's Kitchen has been partly destroyed and is being rebuilt, a plot point which brings Marvel's big screen and small screen worlds together. Charlie Cox had about a month to prepare before shooting Daredevil. Part of his prep included hitting the gym to bulk up and gain muscle so he could look and act the part. Cox also worked with his stunt double Chris Brewster and the show's stunt coordinator Philip J. Silvera on martial arts and boxing techniques including kicks, punches and poses. According to Cox, filming the stunt scenes was one of his favourite parts of the show, and he was keen to do as much of it himself as possible. To help Cox master the routines he was allowed to do, the fight sequences were broken down into sets of 6 to 10 moves at a time, which the actor usually learned on the day of filming. Cox's stunt double Chris Brewster has said that the action in Daredevil surpasses any TV show or film he's worked on, which is quite something because while big action movies may shoot for many months, Daredevil filmed each episode in 9 days. To further prepare for the show, Cox also worked with Joe Strechay, who's blind and works at the American Foundation for the Blind, where he helps prepare visually impaired people for employment. During his time with Strechay, Cox learned how to use a white cane and navigate busy sidewalks while wearing a blindfold. And he also learned how a blind person would find objects on a table by feeling for them. In fact, locating an object without using his eyesight was something Cox found quite difficult during filming, which meant quite a few retakes to get it right. To find out how his eyes should appear when he takes off his glasses or mask, Cox filmed some of his conversations with Strechay. By filming him, Cox noticed how Strecchay's eyes were often directed towards the mouth of whoever was speaking. So, Cox did the same with Matt Murdock in Daredevil. The creative team behind Daredevil approached the series as a crime drama first and a superhero show second. With that in mind, they took inspiration from HBO crime drama The Wire, as well as 1970s American movies including William Friedkin's The French Connection, Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon, Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, and Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. Well, there you have it, 15 things you probably didn't know about Daredevil. Now let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Marvel's Daredevil series on Netflix? And what would you like to see happen in future seasons? If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more things you didn't know, as well as movie reviews and interviews. Thanks for watching, yippee-ki-yay superhero lovers!